Fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you. Glad you came too. Like you said when you know you got moves. You spit game and you know you spit.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fastlane Collective. As always, I am your host, Brianna, and I am joined by Yasmin and Daniella. We're full force again this weekend. So excited to have you guys. This will be not my last episode, but my last episode for like 2 weeks because I'm headed off on vacation. I'm going to try and unplug. That probably won't happen, but whatever. Anyways, let's check in. Daniella, how are you doing? You were at Silverstone this weekend. You lucky stinking duck. How was it? What were you up to over there?
Yeah, I'm good, and I was at Silverstone over the weekend. I went for Saturday. It was British GT, GB3, and GB4. And I did go primarily for GB3 and GB4. It was a lot of networking, meeting up with some old friends. It was just really great weekend. I got to see a lot of drivers out and about. And it was a great way to start off their season. A lot of action, a couple of safety cars thrown in, some big crashes. Very interesting weekend, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
We love it. I'm just thinking about this right now. Daniella, does any part of your life not have motorsports involved? Because you work in motorsports and then you spent your weekend doing motorsports. Like, do you need a break?
That's a really good question, and it's something that my work colleagues ask me daily because I'll be like, okay, here I am at work for 9 hours minimum doing motorsport, and then I go home and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do the podcast now, and then more motorsport, and then when I'm not doing that, I'm watching motorsport or reading up on motorsport or writing about motorsport, and everyone's like, that is just a lot, and I'm like, yeah, it is a lot, but I love it, so I can't complain.
Do you dream in motorsport?
Yeah, you know what, there's often times where I have dreamt about like being at a racetrack, like meeting drivers, interviewing drivers. Like, my brain's just constantly thinking about it, so it does appear in my dreams a lot.
Wow, your dreams are like way more productive focused. Usually if I dream about a driver, I'm like dating them or married to them or something. That's how my brain works. But anyways, Yasmin, any motorsport dreams for you recently?
Not recently, but I did have a dream one time that I interviewed Charles Leclerc, but like I couldn't get my answers right. Like I couldn't like say the right thing, and he like walked off and got very annoyed. So I more dream about like an interview going wrong. So we all have different versions of motorsport dreams. So
I mean, your guys are definitely way more healthy than mine. Like, they're about your aspirations. Mine are about marrying them or dating them. Maybe I need to talk to my therapist about this, because honestly now I'm scared because you guys aren't having the same dreams. Like,
but maybe those are your aspirations, and I apologize to Brianna's husband, but maybe they are.
Honestly, when we were in Monaco a couple months ago, he was like, listen, if you see Charles Leclerc and you hit it off, like, I won't be mad. And I was like, okay. But anyways, besides your dreams, Yasmin, how was your week? What were you up to?
Nothing much really. I'm coming to the end of my uni course this year. So I'm just like working away, trying to finish up all my assignments that I've left the last minute, as per usual. So that's been my week, trying to catch up and hopefully pass this year so I can finish my last year next year. So
We'll cross our fingers,
Brianna.
You're gonna be great. We're crossing our fingers, and I'm sure you will do amazing. I'm glad those days are behind me, honestly. Like, I don't know if I could swing college again. I could swing the schedule for sure, but not the work. My week has been good. It's been very busy. If you guys could see the rest of our master bedroom right now, you would be like, whoa, what has happened? We're packing for the trip. Clothing is everywhere. Bags of things are everywhere. I can't. I'm just pretending it's not there right now, to be honest with you. But yeah, I had a good week, just busy preparing for this trip. But I did have a thought this week, and I made a TikTok. It's in my drafts. I have to post it. But obviously the Miami GP is coming up next week, as we all know. Newer track that's been added to the calendar. This will be the third year, I believe, that we are in Miami. Every time I plan a trip, I have now realized it has been a time where a actual GP has happened in my time zone. Every single time. Every single time. Last year was the Austin GP, or the US Grand Prix, the official one. I was in Italy. I literally was like, yeah, let me just move to a totally different time zone so I can't watch this race. And then this year, obviously Miami GP, I'm going to Hawaii. And that's a 6-hour difference. Again, I will not be able to watch it live. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? And I'm pretty sure when I went to Italy 3 years ago, I did the same thing. I'm pretty sure it was the Austin GP and I missed it completely. Like, what's wrong with me? Am I subconsciously planning my vacations around F1 races when they happen in my time zone? I don't know.
You
I don't
really
know.
like to make your life difficult, Brianna. I've noticed.
Like, what? Like, why? Why do I hate myself like that? And I'm doing it to myself. I don't know. I just noticed that. It's so weird. So I don't know. I'll be 6 hours behind Miami time. So I will either need to wake up incredibly early to watch this race. Anyways, just a little observation for me. We obviously have a lot to talk about this week. No race this weekend, but do not worry because there was a lot going on in the F1 world this weekend. We have narrowed it down to our top stories we wanted to bring to you this week. We're going to jump right in with something we all love. Obviously, we are all fans of DTS here. We loved Drive to Survive, maybe a little on the fence with how the past seasons have gone since the first one. But Netflix has released and announced 2 big documentaries that they're coming out with all around F1 or F1 adjacent. Let's start with the first one. Netflix is coming out with F1 The Academy on May 28th. It's a 7-part series about the F1 Academy journey and world. Bianca Bustamante in an interview was quoted saying it's basically F1 Academy Drive to Survive version, which is really exciting. Reese Witherspoon's company is producing it, which I love that. I love that we've got another female involved in this and somebody who's wanting to champion female motorsports. And it was surprising to me because Reese Witherspoon, there's no like line connection there between her and motorsports. So I thought that was really, really cool. It's going to basically be an unprecedented access to the craziness, the grit, and the emotional turmoil, and just the journey of becoming a female motorsports driver and the unique things that these women encounter being female. Daniella, I got to start with you. One, how excited were you to hear that this is finally coming out? Obviously, we've kind of heard about it in the talks over the past couple of months. Were you excited by this, and what are you looking most forward to in this series?
I think it goes without saying that I am probably the most excited person on earth for this documentary series.
What? No. Surprise.
There was a W-Series documentary, funnily enough, made by Whisper. Back in the day that came out, it was on All 4 in the UK. I don't know if anyone else watched it apart from me. I watched it so many times. They then took it off, and I was heartbroken. I have now met and worked with the producer of that documentary series, and I've asked him if he can send me it because I miss it so much. But I'm now going to get my kind of fix from this new F1 Academy one, and I'm so unbelievably excited. I don't know what I'm most excited for. I feel like there's going to be storylines that we didn't quite see. I'm quite excited to see how they played out like the first race or the first couple of races with the whole like Dorian versus Abby battle that happened at the start of the season before Abby kind of dominating. But there's so much that I'm excited about. Nikki Shields is kind of voicing this whole thing. And I'm a big fan of Nikki's, so I'm excited to see what she can do and how this all like comes together. But I don't even have enough words to describe how excited I'm feeling. I cannot wait. Bring on the 28th of May. I will be there. Well, I think I'm working night shifts that week, but that's fine. I'm still going to make time for it.
Yeah, I'm also excited for it too. I think it'll be interesting as well. I know Bianca kind of said it's kind of a DTS, but for F1 Academy. But we've got a totally different production company working on this and a female-led one, which I think will really produce a new type of perspective and documentary. Obviously, we know Netflix has kind of become the king of sports documentaries. Ever since DTS happened, we've got the golf documentary happening. We saw the NASCAR and the IndyCar one and a bunch of other ones that are out there now. So I'm really excited about it. Yasmin, obviously I know you're excited about it. I don't have to ask you that. But seeing that you just met Jamie Chadwick a couple of weeks ago, so this is kind of female motorsports fresh in your mind. What are you most excited to see when it comes to insights-wise of what we're going to see behind the scenes? And also, do you think that this documentary will have the same kind of effect that F1 Drive to Survive had for the sport?
I really hope it does have that same impact that Drive to Survive has, because I think that, well, that's kind of what got Formula One this huge hype in recent years, and I really hope we get that for F1 Academy, because of course people watch it, but the more eyes on it, the better. And I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing these women's like personalities and hearing about their own different journeys from wherever they're from in the world and how they got into motorsport and just the obstacles they've had to face to get into the F1 Academy. I think especially every woman's journey within motorsport is completely different. You know, some get sponsors, some have to fund their drive themselves, some have to take time out of the sport to get that funding. So I really am just excited to get to know them, because that's what I really liked about Drive to Survive. You kind of got to know the drivers a little bit more, and we don't really know the F1 Academy drivers, so I'm just really excited to dive straight in and see what we're gonna get. I'm just so hyped it's finally here, because I didn't know if we were actually gonna get it or not, because there was so much talk, oh, we're gonna get a docuseries, and then you wouldn't hear much about it. So let's go, girls.
I know, I'm so excited, and it kind of makes up for not having any sort of coverage for the first whole season of F1 Academy. It's like, oh, okay, I can forgive you now that we're getting a documentary. And part of me wonders like how far back this documentary is going to go. Are we going to see behind the scenes from trying to start this F1 Academy, or are we starting at the beginning of last season, kind of how DTS did it? I'm really curious to see that. Honestly, the thing I'm most excited for with this F1 Academy documentary is hearing from Susie Wolff, the queen, our queen herself. I'm so excited to just see her interviews, but also see her behind the scenes and how she works and operates, because that woman is goals. Also, Susie Wolff, just slight shout out, thanks for the Toto Wolff post, we appreciate you so much. And I love that she was like, ask permission to post this, because who doesn't love a little Toto Wolff thirst trap every once in a while? I mean, she's a lucky lady. Anyways, I'm just excited to see her, because she is such a boss in this industry, and I want to like get into her head and see how she works and operates and goes about running this whole thing. So I think that's actually what I'm most excited for, and I really do hope as well that this has the same kind of ripple effect that DTS had. And I wonder, Daniella, I guess my question for you is, I wonder, is this kind of women-centered documentary going to kick off other documentaries for women's sports like golf? I think the WNBA is really, really having a moment right now. Soccer, do you think we're going to start seeing more in these documentaries centered around female sports?
I think so, because as we know, like Drive to Survive started off a lot of sports documentaries from that. So I have a feeling that the F1 Academy documentary series will also kind of do the same. I do have a feeling though that this is not going to get as much traction as Drive to Survive does, and I don't think it's gonna change the sport, but I don't think it's going to have as big of an effect as Drive to Survive does. But I think it'd be interesting to see if more people, and specifically more men, tune into this. One thing that I learned from this weekend is Abby Pulling was racing in GB3, so was Bianca Bustamante. And bearing in mind it was a British GT event, there were more people in Abby Pulling merch than any other merch the whole weekend. That's including Formula One merch. there was so much Abby pulling merch, which made me so happy to see, because that meant that, you know, people are starting to know her name. They're starting to know that there is women in this sport who are going to do fantastic things. And every time I was sat in a grandstand, there's people around me, men and women, talking about Abby pulling. And I was like, I can't believe we've reached this point. Like, it made me feel so much more optimistic about this change in the sport, because people often ask me, like, when are we going to have a first F1 driver? Like, when do you think that's going to happen? First female F1 driver. And I always said, like, oh, there's still so much further to go, and like things aren't looking great, and there's still so much change. And I feel like I've mentioned this quite recently as well. But after seeing that many people supporting Abby and Bianca, I was like, oh my God, like, it's actually going to, like, like, things are changing. Things are actually happening for good. And I really hope that the F1 Academy documentary will also push that narrative as well. Just sitting there and hearing men be like, oh, Abby Pulling's racing today. She's so amazing. Like, she won a F1 Academy. And I'm like, it's not just me who knows who Abby Pulling is. Oh my God. Like, and just like seeing young girls wearing Abby Pulling merch melted my heart, because I was like, they actually have role models now that we didn't have when we were growing up. They have got these female role models, and it's just amazing. So I think that this is going to like help with that. I don't think it's going to be completely revolutionary, because you are still going to get a lot of criticism. There was a lot of horrible comments on the official post, so it does kind of scare me a little bit that, you know, as much as we want this to be a positive thing, it might not be. But I'm hoping that we can kind of drown out all of the negative comments with all the positivity.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for a way to support F1 Academy or women in motorsports and you don't have Netflix, girl, get it now. Get Netflix for 1 month at least. And by streaming this and talking about it on your social media and telling people you're watching it and telling other people to watch it, that's a way you can support. If you can't afford to go to these races, you know, this is another way to support. I want to see like the F1 Academy documentary on Top Watched. I really do. I hope that happens, because that would be so amazing and get it in front of more eyes. And I think people who even just love a good documentary, this would be a good watch for them. And to your point, Daniella, about, you know, seeing negative comments on the announcement for the F1 Academy documentary, I am always of this belief that there will always be negative comments on anything, not even in motorsports, just on anything. We know this from my marketing background. Like, we always say, oh, no matter what you post, someone's going to post something negative. But let's not give any attention to that, because there's so many more voices out there that are cheering these women on and are supportive of this whole thing. And sometimes it always bugs me, like, just to be honest, I always see like TikToks come up or like videos where women are like highlighting a negative comment that they had on like their post. And I'm like, why are you giving them the attention? Like, I know you're trying to call attention to the fact that this happens to you, but by you, like, making a whole video about someone's comment, like, that's just fueling them to, these people want attention. They want attention. And by doing that, you're just fueling it, and they're just going to continue to do it. Anyway, sorry, side rant on that. But I am really excited to see it, and I think it will help move the needle. Like you said, Daniella, it won't move the needle the whole way, but I think it will help move the needle on bringing attention to women in motorsport. And I'm so excited. Again, you guys, this comes out May 28th on Netflix, 7-part series. Make sure to be watching when it comes out. Okay, second bit of Netflix news and final bit of Netflix news for this episode. Netflix also dropped on us that they're doing a whole Kimi Antonelli documentary about him getting the Mercedes seat. This was a surprise to me. We have heard nothing. I have heard no rumors, no nothing about this documentary. And I was kind of shook when I saw it. Yasmin, when you saw this announcement, were you just stunned? And also, do you think this is going to be a one-time thing? It'll be just a documentary on him getting the seat and being one of the youngest people to enter Formula One? Or do you think this is going to be a continuous, like, series thing? Like, they're going to follow his career down the road?
I'm a bit mixed on this documentary, okay? I love Kimi Antonelli, and again, youngest person in Formula One, like, just an amazing achievement what he's done so far, but I don't really see like what they're gonna like. I don't know how it's gonna be like a long documentary. Like it might be maybe I don't know much about the series itself. But I think it wouldn't be like something that to continue on with, because then with Drive to Survive, they're gonna probably touch on that anyway. That's if they're continuing gonna be doing Drive to Survive for like another 10 seasons or whatever. Um, but yeah, when I first saw this, as usual, I was like, "Ah, this is fake scroll." With like every kind of F1 thing I don't expect, I've just assumed Twitter is just a fake thing as usual.
I
But
thought so
no,
too.
yeah.
I thought so too. I was like, what? This is fake. And then I was like, wait, no, this is real. Netflix posted this.
Even with like how it looked as like the black and white like text and stuff, I was like, oh, this is like someone's made this, and then, oh no, it's been posted by Netflix. So yeah, I'm just kind of like I'm curious, and I'm glad that we're doing something different from just like the Drive to Survive format. I'm happy for that, but I'm just kind of like, is this just a one-time thing? And if so, like, is many people gonna watch it? I don't know. So we shall see. I'm definitely gonna watch it, but I don't really know how to feel about it. I kind of think it was not what anyone was really wanting either, because everyone knows the story, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I was also confused when this was announced, because I was like, well, he hasn't even finished his first season. And then I was like, and that would be cannibalizing DTS. That would be weird. But then as I read into it more, it's really going to be about his journey to getting signed with Mercedes. We're not going to see a lot of like this season, which makes sense because they want to reveal that in DTS. And I think you're right, Yasmin. I think they're trying to produce new documentaries because they kind of know the shiny and fun of DTS is starting to wear off. So we're trying to find other ways to lead people to Drive to Survive to watch, but also preparing for Drive to Survive to be over. But yeah, it's supposed to really go into, I think, kind of who he is as a person, his career, his backstory. And then I did also read that it's also going to go into the behind the scenes of Mercedes making this decision. And the other people they were entertaining for this seat. Daniella, are you excited for this documentary? Or were you also kind of like, well, why is this happening?
I kind of agree with Yaz. Like, I kind of thought, why is it happening? Because although I know they're saying like it leads up to the point where he signs, but we do actually see kind of the signing and like those conversations with Toto in the most recent episode of Drive to Survive. And I didn't watch that and think, oh, you know what, I need this to be expanded on and I need to know more. I kind of was like, okay, that's what happened. Like, that's it. So I wonder what they're showing. Like, are they showing his season in F2? Like, how far back are they going? What is their game plan with this if they know that some of it has already been covered in Drive to Survive? How do they then put this up against Drive to Survive? And like you said, like, they're probably looking at other alternatives, but it's like, why are you kind of you're almost pitting this against your other successful documentary series when similar themes are being covered, and you said they're following Mercedes, but then isn't Drive to Survive going to follow Mercedes? So I just have questions about kind of why now, what's the reasoning behind it, and how does this fit in with Drive to Survive? Are they using footage from Drive to Survive? Is it completely separate entity? How is this going to all come together? I'm a little bit skeptical, but I'm like open to change my mind on it once I've seen it, and I'm not going to let my skepticism like completely falter my opinion. I'm going to see what happens, but I just don't at the point in time, without a trailer or anything, I don't really get it.
Yeah, trailer is not out yet. Apparently, the trailer will be coming May 5th. So soon. Oh, no, I'm sorry. May 5th is the release date of the show, the documentary. The trailer should be released on the 28th of April. So at the time we're recording this is tomorrow.
Yes, but that will be yesterday for when people hear this.
Correct. So if you're listening to this right now, you can view The Seat Netflix trailer for Kimi Antonelli's documentary
But I didn't realize
Correction.
that it was coming out so soon.
I know. I didn't either until I read an article. There's like a whole Netflix kind of media. I forget what it's called, but I read it in there. But I have a whole theory around this Kimi Antonelli documentary that I want to share. Conspiracy theory, F1 alert. Here it comes. All right, so we all know that Mercedes is quite down low. They lay low. They don't really let a lot of people in. But this year with Drive to Survive, we saw a different side from Mercedes. We saw a lot more of the behind the scenes from Mercedes than I think we've ever seen. We got more access to the drivers, George Russell. There was a lot of focus on him this year in Drive to Survive. And I mentioned this at the very beginning of this podcast launch. Kimi Antonelli is Mercedes' new star. It's their new Lewis Hamilton. He is their new moneymaker. And they're putting all of their marbles into his basket. This documentary for me is more proof that they are doing that. They are trying to appeal to the masses, show Kimi Antonelli's side, his rise to fame, the history he's making, and making it with Mercedes. This is a big old PR propaganda piece. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm here for it. I want to learn about Kimi Antonelli. I want to see the cool behind the scenes. And honestly, that little glimpse of his life we got with his parents in DTS when he finally got the seat, that was so sweet and heartwarming. I was like, oh my God, his parents are like listening in their little headphones and like watching their son's dreams come true. And I'm sure we're going to get to know them more in this documentary as well. But yeah, when I saw this came out, I was like, okay, Mercedes, I see you. I see you. Let's give Netflix some access to our new boy so we can make a whole series about him, have people fall in love with him, and really just start growing that fan base for Kimi, because Mercedes is definitely looking at him as their new rising star, and they're investing a lot in him and hoping they're going to get a good return on it, not just on track, but when it comes to merchandise sales, when it comes to popularity. They're taking a different approach than they did with Lewis Hamilton in this one. And I'm kind of here for it. But they're doing it sneakily. I don't think people are noticing it as much. Maybe it's my marketing background. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you think like, oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. But I kind of feel bad for George Russell in a way. Because for so long, George has been kind of that Kimi Antonelli, like, oh yeah, you're going to be like the next one when Lewis goes. So that might explain him talking to Red Bull, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll dive into that. I mean, yeah, poor George. I mean, he just wants to be loved by Toto Wolff, but I don't think it's happening. Anyways, that was all the Netflix news for this week. Very surprised that we had 2 announcements from them all around Formula One, which is more exciting. I mean, like we all said, we're not going to turn down another F1 documentary, honestly, even if it's good or bad. But crossing our fingers, both these documentaries are really, really great, and we fall in love with them. Another thing that was dropped this week, or revealed, I should say, is the Madrid track, the Mad Ring, as we are calling it, or the Mad Track, whatever. I don't know what that name is, so weird. But they finally revealed the track. It's going to have 22 corners, 5.4 kilometers, and it's actually going to have a 24% banked bend on the track as well. Carlos Sainz was announced as the official ambassador. If you didn't see, he like did this cute little waving of the checkered flag, and then bulldozers like started going to commemorate the building of the track. Daniella, are you excited for this added Madrid race? Are you skeptical? What are your thoughts on the whole thing?
At the moment, I'm not really sure where I stand. It's one of those things where like I need to see it in action to then form an opinion. It's exciting, and I'm glad that we're getting a new track. But I don't really know how I feel. Like, I don't know if it's going to be any good. Some of the recent tracks we've added in recent years I've not liked. For example, as I said in the last episode and the episode before, not massive fan of Jeddah. So that was a new-ish track. Same with Miami, not really a big fan of Miami. So we'll see. Maybe Madrid will be the one where I change my mind about these new tracks. The thing I do not like is the name. As we're referring to it as Mad Ring. I really don't like it. I think it's cringy. I feel like they're trying to be like the Nürburgring and the Red Bull Ring, and it's like, no, you do not have that position of power to claim ring in your title. Okay, you're new. Calm down. Pipe down. We're not having this. So I'm not. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of the name. I just think let's just give it a generic like Madrid circuit. I don't know. I just don't like Mad Ring, and also Mad. I don't. Doesn't sound. I just don't know. I just don't like it. What are both your thoughts? Because I think I kind of mentioned to you before. I was like, I just don't like this name. Kind of gives off bad connotations. I feel like, and stereotypes. I'm just not keen.
It's giving new kid on the block and wanting to fit in. It's like, oh, everyone's wearing these cool sweatshirts. I'm also going to wear it. So everyone has like something Ring in their name. I'm also going to be called Ring. Yeah, I don't know. It's still like a little weird for me. Yes. Are you like, does the name repulse you?
You know what? I don't hate it as much as you two. And I'll tell you why. Mad. Right, okay, hold on. So if they're going to put Mad in the title of a track, that track better be like, races have to be mad. It has to be a crazy track. And I'm like, oh my God, every race in here, it's mental. So if we race there and it's like, I'm falling asleep, this is so boring, ugh, then I'll hate it. But I think they've probably called it like Mad Ring because it's a hybrid of like a street circuit and, you know, a more traditional circuit, which I like. That's cool. But yeah, like you've more put my like standards higher for what this might be. So don't let me down. Come on, Carlos. You were there. So this is basically your track and you say how much you love Madrid. And I'm pretty sure he's from Madrid. So
yeah.
But you know what? I'll also miss if we're going to be going to the Mad Ring instead of the Barcelona to Catalunya track. I was there the start of April and I love that track after being there. It's just a stellar place and like yeah, I'll miss we don't go back there, but having another like another track when we already have so many tracks and every country's kind of fighting to get their track in and we've got like 3 races in the US and then we don't even have like a track in Africa that we go to. It's the only continent that we don't race in. Yeah, I'm kind of going off on one, but yeah, I don't know. It's a mixed feeling of yay, new track, but like you were talking about Daniella, I hate the Miami track. So it's like I'm kind of hoping we don't have another one of those. Please, no thank you.
Yeah, do you want a fun fact about this track?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it to us, you researcher.
My fun fact is that this is the only track that is in a European country's capital.
Oh. That's actually shocking, honestly. It's a fun fact, but also a shocking one. What? Really? Yeah. What the heck? Okay. All right. Well, it's got that going for it. Yay, Madrid.
On the current calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, technically Monaco. Does Monaco have a capital? It's so small. Just the whole thing. I don't know. Someone Google that. We'll need to Google that after if Monaco is a capital or not. But I think, yeah, Danielle, you're seeing that you're the motorsports researcher here. You're probably most definitely right in this. But we love that. Yeah, you're right, Yasmin. Naming a track, the Mad Ring, like it better be bananas. If there are not 400 safety cars and just absolute chaos, like you've set the bar so high for that track, naming it the Mad Ring. If it's a snooze of a race, disappointment, automatically just disappointing. It probably won't be because it is a brand new track, so there's bound to be some chaos. But yeah, I would honestly take a US race out and give it to either, you know, Africa, say. I agree with you. I think F1 just went crazy when United States realized that F1 existed, and they were like, you get a race, and you get a race, and you get a race. Like, it just went absolutely crazy. But yeah, I'll take another one somewhere else.
I mean, in the Mad Ring, they have a banked corner, and it's called Le Monumental. Like, it better be Le Monumental. Like, come on. And it has a 24% like incline over 550 meters. So that better be Le Monumental.
Honestly, I just want to name this like the most dramatic track to ever exist, because the names of these corners, like, I would love to see all the names of the corners. It's like the insane corner, the corner of chaos, like the monumental banking corner. Like, it's just drama for 22 corners. But yeah, they need to cool it, like Danielle said, with the dramatic names. Because if they don't live up to their name, we're out of here. We are expecting high things from this track, from the Mad Ring. So we'll see. They also did release, obviously, a track map, and they released a little rendering, almost like if you were to play the Mad Ring on the F1 game, a simulation of how that would look. So again, game simulation versus what'll actually happen there. We will wait and see. All right. Some other news that came out this week, not a big surprise, but GM was officially approved by the FIA to become a engine manufacturer for mainly Cadillac for 2026. We all kind of knew this was coming, especially with Cadillac officially getting the thumbs up a couple of months ago from the FIA to become a team in Formula One. Daniella, I think this will be interesting because we've seen the last new team we saw come in was obviously Haas. We haven't seen a new engine provider come in for quite a while. So if Cadillac / GM, and the American in me just views them as one entity, but if they knock this out of the park and create a stellar engine, do you think this could shake things up in the engine provider game?
Absolutely, and I kind of hope that it does, just because it is getting a little bit repetitive in terms of like power units. Everyone seems to go towards the same teams. A lot of teams go to other teams to use their power unit, and it, like, I would quite like to have something a bit different, which is why I'm excited for this. I think it kind of was gonna happen. Like, we were all kind of knew it's coming in, it's gonna happen. But it's nice that it's now been confirmed. So I do hope they just kind of shake things up a little bit. And I think if they are very successful, then other teams will probably be looking in their direction. I think it might take them a couple of seasons to get to grips with it all. But you never know. They might do it first go. Look at Jenson Button in 2009.
Very true. And I mean, GM obviously has experience in the engine manufacturing world, unlike some of these other ones like Red Bull, for example, doing their own powertrain thing. Obviously, they're teaming up with Ford. So it's really interesting to see more of these American engine providers really getting in the game when it comes to F1. And obviously, we know a lot of the developments that have come from F1 cars over the years are now in the cars we use today, which is kind of crazy. But it makes sense for engine providers like Ford, GM, Mercedes, Alpine to be involved in this type of thing, because not only does it help them when it comes to the production of F1 cars, it could possibly help them in the future of producing their own vehicles that they sell for everybody else out there in the world. So speaking of engines, we have some drama between all of the engine providers and the FIA. It's a little bit of a two-part drama situation. And if this is confusing to you guys, we really recommend you doing some Googling. Sky Sports has a good article out there. Motorsports.com also has a good article out there about what's going on with this drama. Because we, too, were confused by this before we dug into it a little bit more. So, as I mentioned, it's a little bit of two-part drama. Basically, the FIA and the engine providers are not getting along. They're not agreeing on some things. And the first part of this being the FIA want the F1 cars starting in 2026 for the engine providers to provide a 50-50 engine. This means that 50% of the car's power will be coming from battery power, and then 50% will be coming from internal combustion engine power. the manufacturers are saying, this is a little crazy. Not sure if we can do this. Right now, for the cars on the 2025 grid, they get about 20% of their power from the electrical engine, the power unit that's producing the electric side of the power. And so the engine providers are very concerned about this, more about around being able to do this. Yasmin, do you think that F1 is just kind of throwing out some things out there, be like, we want 50-50, and not really thinking about it and being like, wait, is that possible just yet? And do you think this will cause more tension between the FIA and F1 as it is right now?
That would not surprise me one bit if they're just like, hey, 50-50, let's see if it works, and if it doesn't, well, we'll figure it out when we get there. Because that seems to be Formula One as a whole. So yeah, I think that this is obviously a goal that they want to get to, but again, 20 to 50 is, it's a big jump. I think they should have done it like maybe, okay, 1 year we're going to go up by like 5%, or I don't know, work it out in a margin and slowly try and get to that 50% and then go from there. I think it's just a huge ask for teams, at least at the minute, when, we hear it throughout races, them have issues with battery, and I just think 2026 is going to be a bit of a mess, especially when we have so many other regulations going in as well. And I think Toto Wolff being so irritated by this, I think probably Mercedes have gotten down to a T what they wanted, and now this change is just going to mess up their plans. And yeah, I'm a bit scared for 2026, but also very excited because I'll put my hands up. I love a mess. I love drama within Formula One on and off the track. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm really intrigued to see how this is all gonna kind of come to fruition next year. Daniella, I'm just gonna throw it to you because again, you're the researcher here. You know more facts. What are you kind of feeling for 2026?
Yeah, I think there's a lot kind of hanging in the air around this. I think this could change things quite dramatically. So what the teams are kind of have come out and said, and there's this potential change, is could, instead of it being 350 kilowatts of power or electricity as an output, dropping it to 200 kilowatts. And for context, for those who don't know, a Formula E car puts out 350 kilowatts of electricity, and their races are shorter, so their races are usually last an hour. And F1 races last hour and a half, if not more. So I can see why teams are skeptical, because even though Formula E cars are fully electric and F1 cars are hybrid, there is still that concern about, will the cars last the entire race? Because if they're only having 50% put in of internal combustion, then they're not going to have as much fuel. How is this all going to kind of work out? So I can see the concerns from the teams. It was also my initial concern. When Formula E first started, it was that they had to jump out of one car and into another car because a car couldn't last the whole race. And if cars in F1 are not lasting the whole race, that is going to look very, very embarrassing for the teams and for the sport. With Formula E, we've obviously seen a progression where now we're in these cars, we're in currently the Gen 3 Evo era, heading into Gen 4 for next season, and these cars last the full race. We've added in, they can add in extra power from attack mode and pit boost, and we've got to a point in this sport where it's actually very exciting for electric racing. But the concerns that would prevent that were given at the start with Formula E and now kind of been turned to Formula One. Will these cars last the full race? Who knows? So what the teams would like, rather than being 50-50, they'd like it to be 60-40. So 60% internal combustion engine, 40% of electricity, which I think is more attainable than it is to go 50-50. I don't know if the FIA are going to agree to this. It's a possibility that they're looking at. I just don't feel like you can have a Formula One car that has 350 kilowatts of power if that's the same as Formula E. The whole point of Formula E is it's an all-electric series, and at the moment, Formula One cannot become an all-electric series when Formula E is still happening. It is in their contracts that this is not allowed to happen. So I'm intrigued to see what actually Formula E have to say about this, but also what the FIA are going to do about this and how they're going to take on board, or if they choose to take on board, the criticism from the teams. It's a very interesting topic of conversation right now. So I will definitely be doing a lot more research and seeing what comes out. So if more stuff is mentioned over the next few weeks, we'll definitely bring it back, because I am a nerd. My title is literally motorsport researcher. I work on Formula E. So I do feel quite qualified to speak about this, and I'm very interested in it, especially when it brings in that electricity element.
Oh yeah, honestly, when we were like talking through this, all three of us, I was like, Daniella, help! Like, what? Explain. You're the one who deals with all electric racing. So I was like, literally, like, wait, back up. Explain this to somebody who doesn't work in electric car racing. So we really appreciate your insight, Danielle. And I had the same thoughts as well. I was like, okay, 50-50, when does that stop? We already have Formula E. We don't want to make these F1 cars full electric, because then what's the point? But the part two of this drama is because of the concerns around this whole we want 50-50 when it comes to your power output. Obviously, those talks are still happening. They haven't come to a full decision on what that will be. But because of this has made teams start to worry about, will we be able to produce a engine, a power unit that is up to par and is competitive? And because of this, a lot of the teams are asking, well, hey, if we stick to these current rules of the 50-50 power output, if our engine isn't up to par, can we have more time and more money to produce an engine that is competitive? Now, if you don't know this already, if you're not familiar, obviously there's a cost cap when it comes to F1 teams, but also there's a cost cap, a separate cost cap completely for engine production. So these engine producers have a certain amount of money that they're allowed to spend on the production of each engine for however many they supply. Sounds like the engine providers are very split on this decision. In order to pass anything in this group, you need a 4 out of 5 vote to pass any of these rules. And as of right now, it's not happening. So some of these teams, cough, cough, Alpine, are saying, hey, if our engine isn't up to par, can we have more money and more time? And some of the teams or the engine providers are saying, absolutely not. These are the rules. If your engine sucks, it sucks. And it's up to you to figure that out within the cost cap. So there's also a lot of drama around that going on right now. Toto Wolff was even quoted saying that it was a joke that this was being discussed, that these are the rules. And if your engine isn't up to par, that's your problem. And you have to work with what you have and figure out how to get the best out of it. Yasmin, are you also baffled by the fact, well, like, what's the point of having the rule if you can just break it then if your engine isn't performing to what you would like?
I don't really know, right? Because I think, we're still discussing like these regulations like now, when teams are probably already working and already thinking about next year's car. I think like if we're ever going to break rules, I think next year should be where teams are maybe given that little bit more of a leeway, because this is such a big change. This isn't just like a small regulation change or just like another year. This is a completely different type of era for Formula One. So I think, to be honest, I do think maybe the teams, maybe all teams should maybe get extra time, or to kind of make bigger tweaks than they're usually allowed. I think, I honestly think it's fair. Maybe not just for one team to get extra time because they're not doing that well. I think it should be every single team can maybe get this X amount extra money or this amount extra time to, I don't know, try and see what they can do. Because I think if not, next year's going to be a bit of a train wreck. you're either going to have teams be absolutely nowhere on pace, or just, I think the whole grid's just gonna be a wreck. So I'm kind of for this kind of rule break, and usually I wouldn't. I'm like, well, you had the same time as everyone else, but because we're still, I mean, we're in the end of April now, and we're still going, we don't know, I think it's fair.
Yeah. And it doesn't surprise me that Mercedes is saying, like, no, you can't break the rules. That's ridiculous, because rumors are they're the one to beat for when it comes to the 2026 engine. They put a lot of work into it, and the rumors are that it's fantastic. Carlos Sainz said it was a big reason he decided to go with Williams, seeing the Mercedes power unit for 2026. Alex Albon also said it was a big reason he decided to stay at Williams, because of what they saw that was coming in 2026. So it's probably a really big deal, and it's not surprising to me that teams like Alpine, who we saw come to this new era that we're currently in now, with an underperforming car and power unit, that they might be the ones complaining and saying, we need more time. I mean, that just sounds like something that they would ask for, seeing that that's been a struggle for them over the past couple of years. And they're the only ones that use their power unit. I believe I'm correct. No one else uses the Renault power unit anymore. So yeah, it's interesting drama. It's interesting to get into, and it is like complicated. It is not something easy to understand, so we really recommend you look into it if you want to look into it further. We tried our best to summarize it here for you as best as we could in layman terms. But yeah, Daniella, maybe we'll have you do like an update at some point, for this whole situation. But they're still in discussions. Nothing has been decided on either of these situations. And hopefully they'll figure it out soon, because 2026, like you said, Yasmin, is not far away. The FIA did come out with some more news this week as around some rule changes that will be implemented in 2026 outside of the engine regulations. There are 3 that are worth mentioning and also 100% settled, and they're happening. Monaco will now have a mandatory 2 pit stops during the race. This will now be a mandatory thing just for Monaco. They are doing this to hopefully improve the quality of racing, have some more action on track, because we all know Monaco is everyone's favorite race, but also we have a love-hate relationship with it. I feel like a lot of people have it. It holds a lot of history in F1. Obviously, it's been on the calendar since F1 was birthed, but it doesn't produce the best racing unless Charles Leclerc wins, in my opinion. Daniella, do you think that this will actually make the racing more exciting, or do you think this is just going to be another dud?
I'm not sure. I think it might make it a little bit interesting, but I don't know until I've seen it. But I think it puts a lot more strategy in place for the teams, which I like, because we need something to make this race interesting. I just don't feel like it's going to be interesting until we can overtake, which we can't do because the car's too big. So in terms of overtakes, we're just not going to get it. It's impossible. So they're trying to look down a different route, which is strategy, which can be a big factor and completely change someone's whole race. But I'd rather see more overtakes. But that's just my personal opinion. I like wheel-to-wheel battles, and I'm not going to get that in Monaco, which is why it's not one of my favourite tracks, because I love the history of it. I'm such a nerd for motorsport history and F1 history. Mm-hmm. And so I can appreciate Monaco, but when it comes to F1, it's just a little bit boring, because we're not getting those overtakes. We're not getting those battles. And 2 pit stops is not going to change that.
Yeah, we'll see. Like you said, we won't know until we see it happen, and it'll be an interesting one. And I think it's interesting because don't quote me on this, but it might be the first time we've ever seen an exclusive rule just applied to one race and not all. So I find that very interesting. And I don't know, it might have happened in the past, way back when. I mean, sprint races, I don't think count. It's not really a rule. It's just an added event to the weekend. But I just found it really interesting that they were willing to apply a different rule just for one race. And I think that goes to show how much they value having Monaco on the calendar. We all know it's a big moneymaker, and it's also a big moneymaker for Monaco with the amount of people flooding in there just to come and see that race. The second rule that they will be implementing is due to what we saw a lot in Japan with the fires, the grass fires. But they're looking at an alternative skid material, possibly steel, they mentioned, to prevent fires on track like we saw happening in Japan so much. Obviously, we all know that was just straight up chaotic, having to stop all the time for a grass fire. They're also mentioned in this rule that they'll be looking at certain treatments to tracks when it comes to fire prevention. So obviously some of these tracks that have drier grass around, they might be looking at applying some sort of coating to certain grass to prevent it from catching on fire. But Yasmin, do you think this is really going to make a difference? And do you also think that the skid block will change for the whole season, or we'll just see the skid block change for these races where fire is more likely to happen?
Well, I'm firstly glad that we're addressing this issue. I feel like a lot of the time Formula One, it takes like so long for them to just like solve an issue for a problem. So I'm glad that, for 2026 we're going, all right, okay, we need to fix this issue. When you're talking about applying it, the new skid block for the whole season, I kind of see, like, I don't see the reason why not to, because there's still going to be sparking, and there's always going to be a possibility that a spark can go onto a piece of grass and catch fire. I mean, the environments in each country that we go to change so often, and with global warming and stuff like that, like tracks and the earth is getting hotter and hotter, so I think there's more chance for these grass fires. Yeah, so I think that they should just keep it for the whole season, and with all the types of hectic rule changes and talking about engines next year, I think like the skid block is going to be the last thing the teams are going to want to have to change in and out and fix throughout the year. But here's my question, right? Doesn't steel still kind of spark? Or is that just me? Like, I don't know enough about materials and what sets what on fire. But when I first heard about, like, okay, they're going to be changing it from wood to steel, I'm like, I'm sure steel would still, like, maybe spark a fire. This might be really, like, a really stupid question. And I have a feeling it probably is. But,
I mean,
yeah, like,
it's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's...
Yeah. You think steel would spark, and when you say wood, you don't think wood would spark. But I think it's more like the wood is so flexible, and that's where you get the wear, where they can see the wear. So like when you're getting wear on that skid block, it's because the actual physical car, the downforce is so severe that the actual car is hitting the ground, and that's what's causing the sparks, not necessarily the skid block. Daniella's like nodding her head very assuredly. Is that correct?
I think so, but don't quote me on that. But that's what I thought was happening, is that the cars were then going down, especially when they go over a sausage curb, that floor is then hitting the ground, and that's what's causing it. I could be so wrong, because I'll put my hand up and say that I do not know enough about this to actually be here telling people. But from my understanding, that is what I think is happening, is that with all the downforce, and it being wood, it's going down and hitting the floor. But I think with steel, it's that bit stronger. Hopefully that won't have that same effect. Okay. But I don't know enough about physics, so please don't quote me on that. But we'll find out, and maybe we'll mention it in the next episode.
Yeah, coming next couple episodes, how skid blocks work and why what they're made of makes the spark. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, like I think that's part of this podcast as well, you guys. We don't know all the answers, and we are also learning with you. So that's literally going to be the next thing I Google after that we're done recording. But we don't admit to know all the answers, and we're okay not knowing them. We're okay finding out and doing our own research. And that's what part of the sport is all about, is learning and learning new things. So we're all going to learn new things about skid blocks soon. But yeah, interesting new rule that they're looking into, a new material, possibly steel. And last but not least, this rule, which seems so kind of dumb and like it's not going to make any sense. Apparently right now drivers have the option to not wear a cooling vest when the FIA says wear a cooling vest. In 2026 they will no longer have an option. They cannot opt out of wearing a cooling vest if the FIA mandates it. Honestly, don't think this is a big deal. I think if the FIA is saying you should wear a cooling vest, you probably should, because it's probably freaking hot and you should probably wear a cooling vest. I don't think it's going to do you any harm to wear it. I think it could do you harm to not wear it, honestly. So that was the last rule they put out that they're mandating for 2026. Obviously, the engine regulations, like we talked about, is another one that is big old question mark, but hopefully we'll find those out soon. Last but not least for this entire episode, we had to talk about it because rumors have been flying and speculations have been being made. But apparently, George Russell and Red Bull have been having some preliminary talks behind the scenes. What these talks are necessarily about and the details of them, we do not 100% know. But the rumor is that Max obviously has a lovely little opt-out clause for Red Bull if he's not within the top 10 in the World Drivers' Championship by a certain point in the year. We do not know where that point is. That is a mystery. But it sounds like Red Bull is starting to make sure they're covering their butts if Max decides to opt on out of there at a certain point in the season. I've obviously heard some other rumors around this, like Aston Martin throwing crazy amounts of money at Max Verstappen to come over there at some point. We've also, like we mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, George Russell not getting a ton of love from Mercedes, and it's not really looking like he's going to be their golden boy to lead the team forward. Daniella, what do you think about this? Do you think it's just a rumor?
Oh, I don't know. It's so hard to say at the moment because we don't know many details about it. So I think it could be true. They might be having talks and we don't know what they're about. So it actually could be nothing to do with Max Verstappen's clause and Red Bull kind of making a plan. We don't know that. And also, Max is still within that 10. I don't see him dropping out of the top 10 right now. I could be wrong, but I don't see it happening, so I don't think it's something we need to worry about or kind of that they need to make a plan with. So, I don't know. It could have just been a light-hearted chat between George Russell and Christian Horner. I guess we'll never know.
I mean, it's weird. It's weird. Because Mercedes and Red Bull, they don't get along. They don't get along. And it does seem strange that they'd be having talks about anything, to be honest with you. So I was like, this is interesting. Yasmin, what do you think of this? Obviously, there have been things cited in the paddock, like Max Verstappen's manager getting very angry with Helmut Marko and publicly kind of ringing him out in front of everybody. There's been rumors about Max being very unhappy at Red Bull. Do you think Max could leave? And do you think Red Bull would really consider George Russell to take his place?
This is very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I'm living for it right now. I'm so living for this right now. And I can't wait to hear more of rumors. I love it.
Drama.
I love it. Yeah, George, hold on. If George Russell was to go to Red Bull, say Max did leave and they kind of, I guess, swapped positions, I mean, that's cutthroat. That's cutthroat from both Max and George. And just, I feel like the Christian Horner Toto Wolff beef would just be amplified to another level. Drive to Survive will be literally rubbing their hands together going, this is what we need. This is it. So it's hard to kind of think about, especially when I'm envisioning them in the opposite gear. And I don't think George Russell would suit Red Bull. And I just mean that I just don't see that like harmony. And maybe, when Max eventually does leave Red Bull, you don't have to be, Max's, second to Max anymore. It'll be a completely different dynamic, but there's always going to be one number one driver, especially at Red Bull. I just think Red Bull as a whole, whenever drivers go there. I'm just afraid for them. Like Liam Lawson, my heart breaks for Liam. But I just I don't see this happening, at least in the near future, and I don't see Max leaving Red Bull yet. I think Max would wait until 2026 and see how that goes, and then he would make a move. But it's hard to tell. But I'm very intrigued and I'm loving it, and I can't wait to hear more about this.
Honestly, if George Russell went to Red Bull, that would be the dumbest decision of his entire career. One, we know that Red Bull car is only drivable by one man. That's Max Verstappen. Two, Mercedes are rumored to have the best power unit and engine for 2026, so much so that it's convinced more than one driver to stay around at a team. So they must have some magical unicorn behind those Mercedes curtains of an engine, because they've convinced multiple people to stay. If he left Mercedes for Red Bull, it would be like a Daniel Ricciardo situation all over again, I fear. Like, he would just plummet so quick. I just don't, it doesn't make sense. And I also don't see George Russell getting along with the likes of Christian Horner. I just don't. And I also can't witness Toto Hart's heart being ripped out again by another driver. I just can't do it. And George, I think, is Toto's little like puppy dog. He's like, Daddy, I want to be your number one child. Please love me. Like, he's like kid, like always just like, Dad, and Dad as Toto Wolff. That was very apparent in DTS to me, honestly. But yeah, it seems weird. It seems strange. Just the fact that these two teams are talking is weird. Not teams, sorry, but they just don't go together. It's like, I don't know, having coffee and then eating steak at the same time. Doesn't make sense to me or to anybody else. But yeah, so rumors flying around. So we will see. It's definitely odd. So it's piquing our interest for sure. But to be honest with you, I don't think we'll hear much more about any of those conversations. And the probability of Max leaving Red Bull is very low. We know it's not impossible, but it's low. All right. Well, that's all we have for you this episode news-wise. But before we go, we haven't done this little section of our podcast since we started the podcast, which is Ask ChatGPT, where we have ChatGPT predict the outcome of a race. Before we did this and had ChatGPT predict the outcome of the F1 season entirely. So because Miami is coming up, let's ask ChatGPT who it thinks is going to win the Miami GP. Obviously, last year it was Lando Norris. The year before it was Max Verstappen. Before I ask ChatGPT, ladies, what are your predictions for the upcoming Miami Grand Prix next weekend? Anyone want to give me their winner? And if you say Lando Norris, I won't be surprised.
I have a feeling that Yaz and I are going to say the same thing.
Should we have you both say it at the same time and see it's the same thing? Okay, ready? I'll count you down. Who do you think is going to win the Miami Grand Prix? 1, 2, 3.
Oscar Piastri.
Wow, so predictable. It's like you two also predicted he would be the world champion. I mean, you have good reasoning for this. Oscar has been performing so well, and that McLaren is fast. I mean, should we ask ChatGPT?
Give it to us. Let's
Drum
see.
roll, please. I said...
Wait. Hold on. We didn't ask you.
Oh. I think it's going to be Max Verstappen.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Lando Norris.
That's what I thought. I thought you were going to say Lando.
Yeah, well, I just like to keep you guessing, okay? I think it's going to be Max. But ChatGPT, I said, who will win the 2025 Miami Grand Prix? I'm clicking enter. It's thinking. Oh, it's given me 2 responses. It literally says response 1, response 2. I've never seen ChatGPT do that. Okay, I will read response 1. ChatGPT says, oh, predicting a single race is even trickier, but fun. Here's my predictions for the 2025 Miami Grand Prix winner. Lando Norris it's his first prediction. And it says, here's why. It even gave me bullet points. McLaren loves fast, smooth street circuits. Just look at how strong they were in tracks like Singapore and Las Vegas. Except we haven't raced there this year yet, ChatGPT. But maybe it's looking at last year. Lando came so close to multiple wins in 2024 to 2025. Feels like this year he'll finally dominate some races. Oh my God, I love it. I love how it's chatting to me so casually. And then it says Miami's layout suits a car with a good top speed and stability in slower corners, and McLaren's recent upgrades have targeted exactly that. Okay, so ChatGPT's first pick for the Miami Grand Prix winner is Lando Norris. Would you ladies like to know its second pick?
Hell yeah.
Okay, here we go. It says 2025.
Wait, can we guess?
Yeah, guess. Who do you think?
I'm gonna say it's gonna say Max Verstappen.
Max.
I was gonna say that too.
You are both correct.
Woo!
You have predicted correctly. ChatGPT says, here's my most educated guess. So apparently Lando Norris wasn't an educated guess. It says, winner prediction is Max Verstappen. Miami has been his playground lately. Okay. He's just so good at these street-style circuits where confidence and precision matter. If Red Bull is still strong, Max would be a safe bet to win again. Oh my God. I freaking love ChatGPT. Also, I'm not going to read it, but it's literally giving me potential surprise predictions and a bonus prediction, which is hilarious. I mean, AI, man. We will see it if it predicts correctly. I mean, Lando Norris and Max Verstappen are pretty safe bet. I'm really curious to see at the end of the season if it predicted the world champion and the constructors champion correctly. That'll be freaky. But yeah, ChatGPT, there you have it.
I
Lando
actually
Norris or
disagree
Max?
with you with it being freaky because it went for the most safest options for drivers, champion, and constructors.
Yeah, I mean, freaky in a way that, like, for the drivers' champion and constructors, I don't know. It'll just freak me out. You're right. It was predictable guesses, but it'll just still freak me out. AI, man, it's taking over the world in Formula One at this point. All right, guys, thank you again for joining us over here on the Fastlane Collective. As always, make sure to leave us a review on the podcast if you love what you hear. Also, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode every time it comes out. F1 Podcast comes out on Tuesdays. F1 Academy comes out on Wednesdays if there was a race for F1 Academy. And also make sure to check us out on social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube at the Fastlane Collective _ You can watch our podcast if you're a podcast watcher. If you're just a listener, that's cool. We're on Spotify. You can listen to us there too. So thanks again. We love you guys. We appreciate all your love and support, and we will see you in the fast lane. Bye-bye.
Hello, fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you. Glad you came too. Like to stand when you know you got moves.